We are entering the ninth inning of the snap election campaign and the final push to get voters out to the ballot box.
And this morning, we're joined by Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie, getting set for her last full day of campaigning. Ms. Crombie, appreciate that you're here. I understand a lot of your campaigning today is going to be taking place in Mississauga, familiar territory to you, as you were the mayor there for 9 years. I'm curious, so does that suggest that you're concerned about hanging on to seats or picking up seats in Mississauga?
No, actually, we're downtown Toronto. We're in Mississauga. We're in Brampton. We're in Hamilton. We're moving around the GTA and the West area today, making that last pitch to voters as we sprint towards tomorrow's election. We're already on the bus. We've been on about half an hour traveling. Lots of morning media.
Yeah, I must say this is a pretty cool vantage point. I really like that you're on your campaign bus, Ms. Crombie. Maybe you can talk about what you've been hearing from constituents as you've been making announcements all throughout the GTA and the province leading up to the election. What do you think are the most pressing issues, and what's kind of your final word to people before they head to the ballot boxes tomorrow?
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity, for sure. You know, I dropped into pick up some milk at Metro the other night, and I'm there all the time. And I hear from the moms. I hear from the moms that they can't afford their groceries and pay their rent in the same month. I hear from the seniors that their family doctor has retired, and how can I help them? Do I know any doctors that are registering more patients? I hear from others that the wait times in the hospital are too long, that someone waited with a baby almost 20 hours. So I ask you, Doug Ford, he said he would end hallway health care. He didn't get it done. He said he'd cut our taxes to make our lives more affordable, and he didn't get it done. And he said he'd build housing, and he didn't get it done. So if you want a government that will ensure that you have a family doctor in the next 4 years and will reduce wait times in hospitals, also will make your life more affordable by cutting your taxes and taking the HST off your home heating and your hydro, and build homes that are more affordable, we have to change this government. So I'm asking for your support tomorrow. Please vote Ontario Liberal, and we'll change the government, and we'll ensure that you have a family doctor.
I'm curious. I know you've talked a lot about healthcare throughout the campaign, and that certainly is an enormous, concern for so many people across the province. We know how many people don't have doctors, Ms. Crombie. But I also, I can't help but looking at the last two federal Liberal leadership debates, the last two nights, so much of the focus was on Trump and tariffs, and that's what Doug Ford was pitching to Ontarians, that he's going to protect the province from Doug Ford from Donald Trump and the tariffs, et cetera. Here,
right?
So I'm worried. I'm worried for you in terms of you've made a pitch about healthcare, but even the federal Liberals are talking about Trump. Doug Ford is talking about Trump. Is your message resonating when so much focus is on what's happening south of the border and the threat here?
But I think you've hit the nail on the head. That is the responsibility of the federal government. Doug Ford, I do agree we should protect Ontario from Doug Ford. His responsibility is to feed into the federal response. He has to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. He has to do the basics for Ontarians, ensure the basics are in place, that everyone has a family doctor, that we don't have wait times in our hospital, that our roads aren't gridlocked, that we can afford life again. It's too expensive. And that there's housing that we can afford. People can't even afford their rents. We got to leave it to the federal government to do the remainder. If Doug Ford cared about us, he'd be at his desk working today, not running around an election campaign and flying off to Washington for photo ops, because that's all it's been. Let's be honest. There's not another premier in this country who would choose this moment to call an election when they should be hard at work at their desk.
Yeah, Ms. Crombie, totally fair to say that, this is an area of the federal government dealing with Donald Trump and the tariffs. But if we do get handed these tariffs, even Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem said this would be devastating for Canada's economy and all the other provinces. You released, a costed platform, $65 million in new spending over 4 years. How would that be affected if we do get hit by these tariffs?
Look, our platform is $9 billion new spending net. But listen, this opportunity should have started 7 years ago when Doug Ford first got elected, to break down interprovincial trade barriers. like Jason Kenney had suggested back when he was premier. He was leading the charge. The one obstacle to breaking down interprovincial trade barriers was Doug Ford, if you can believe it. He needed to have diversified our sectors rather than putting all his eggs in the EV basket. Okay, in Mississauga, I had 4 strong sectors that made us resilient and insulated our economy and built those relationships in the United States as we needed to have with those governors where we're their first or second largest trading partner. He had a job and he failed. And he's also failed to provide the basics for Ontarians to ensure that they can afford the cost of living. That's why we can't attract investment here in this province. Who's going to move into a province where your roads are gridlocked and jammed? People can't get a family doctor. They can't afford to buy a house. Their employees can't afford rent. Of course, they're going to look elsewhere. That's Doug Ford's responsibility, and that's where he's failed.
I'm sure you get a sense of the congestion out on the roads today as you crisscross the province on this final day of campaigning. Ontario Liberal Leader Bonnie Crombie, appreciate the time this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.